Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and today I'm going to read to you an article that I just read about why men aren't getting married. There are studies that are talking about marriage rates declining, divorce rates going up. And I'm going to give you 5 reasons why people aren't getting married so you'll know what to prepare for and kind of know what to think about if you ever decide to tie the knot. Now, until we get things started, can you please let me know you can hear me? Give me a yes in the chat if you can hear me. Also, hit that thumbs up button. We're going to get started on drboycetv.com right now.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm, great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones too late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I want to say hello to everyone in here. Shout out the city you're from. Universal Angel's already answered the question. He says women are greedy. Okay. Lita, how are you? Abdul, Dana, Kat, Kevin, Urban Alien said I had to tune into this. Yeah, I think this is going to be interesting. This is really going to, I know it piqued my curiosity. Also, I want to just say to Universal Angel, stop dating greedy women. How about that? How about that? Give me a yes if you agree with me that some women are greedy and some women are not. Some women are good. Some women are bad. Some women will treat you well. Some women will treat you badly. So if you think women all treat you badly, then I would say stop picking women that treat you badly. Give me an amen if that makes sense. Be careful about who we pick, because relationships and marriage are very serious things. Douglas Jones out of Brooklyn. Good to see you, Gerald Rogers. All right, so let's get it cracking here. I'm going to give you 5 reasons why, according to this article is in Your Tango, and it says 5 brutally honest reasons men don't want to get married. So, so the theme for today is honesty. So everybody type the word honest in the chat. Give me a word honest in the chat to let me know that we're geared up, we're ready for honest information. Oh, Universal Angel says she's a woman. Oh, okay. Well, wow, then. Okay, then you know what? I stand corrected. Dr. Vibe, what's going on, brother? How are you? Everybody follow Dr. Vibe. He has a great show. And actually, we share some of his content on our platforms because I appreciate intelligent people from around the world and good people. You know, he's a good guy, and I respect him immensely. All right, so hit that thumbs up button. Thumbs up, share, subscribe. Also, we got over 1 million downloads on Spotify last month. So if you want to follow us on Spotify, just look up Boyce Watkins on Spotify. I have 2 podcasts there, one called the Dr. Boyce Breakdown, the other one called How to Make Money Without Working. So if either one of those topics are of interest to you, you either want to hear me break down topics as a scholar, I was on the faculty at Syracuse, or if you want to learn how to make money without working, my PhD's in finance, I'd be more than happy to help you. All right, so here we go. Let's do an honest breakdown. So here's what they say in this article. They said, this person's been around the dating industry for 20 years. I've heard every reason under the sun for why men are scared of marriage. You've probably heard most of them yourself. Quote, men don't want to commit because they're not built to stay with one woman. Men won't marry because they would rather spend their lives running around sleeping with as many women as they can. Now, of course, men can be dogs, but trust me, so obviously this is written by a woman, I think. So maybe that's part of it, but I don't know. That part, you know, I think also, let me just say this, as a married man over 50, I can tell you that your needs and your desires change through life. So maybe when you're 25 or 30, the things you want on a daily basis change from when you're, say, 45 or 50. So I would almost argue, I think that there's a reason why some women that want to get married, they really want to settle down, will pick a man that's a little bit older, who's kind of gotten certain things out of his system, who's a little bit more mature. And I'm also going to give you some other things on this, just other Uncle Boyce perspectives that may help you understand this as we move on. And because I thought about this immensely when I wrote my book, Financial Lovemaking, which, by the way, it's on Amazon. It's at drboycebooks.com if you want to get a copy. So they said the number one reason is that weddings are expensive. The average American wedding costs something like $30,000. For most people in this economy, that's a lot of money. Of course, not all weddings have to be lavish and like something out of a Disney movie. But believe it or not, the wedding is important to men, too. When you see anything about weddings in the media, it's always presented as if only the woman cares about the day and that men are just along for the ride. That's a huge myth. Men are proud creatures, and we want to give you the best day possible. We know how important your wedding day is to you. So I think the author of this article is a man. I'm going to say this. I think that they're right. about the cost of marriage being very, very high. And this is where I, as a finance guy, hop into the conversation because when the cost is high, that can be very intimidating for a lot of people. I know that our wedding, when I married my wife, it was not cheap. I know that my ability to pay the bills and not worry about it was different at that stage in life than it might have been when I was, say, 32 or 31. Even at 31, 32, I made over $100,000 a year, and I was engaged actually in my mid 30s. And I remember even then, even making six figures, I looked at the numbers and I said, "Oh my God, this is crazy." And one of the things I would warn anybody that's really seeking true love and a substantive, meaningful relationship. Again, we're not so much into the flash here; we're into more of the substance. I think the flash is okay, but you got to have the substance first, right? The flash is fine, but you got to get the substance first. So that means that's like if you make a cake, it's okay to have good icing. You want to have good icing, but you got to make sure you have some cake. And you got people out here now that have all flash, no substance. They have a flashy wedding with no true love. They have, these big, proud relationships with no true commitment to each other, whatever that means for them. So, so give me a yes if you understand. I think that the icing is cool, but you got to make sure you have the cake first. So when you talk about flashy weddings, one of the things I will tell you is that the economic conditions of our economy and our society are shifting. People are struggling financially, and a lot of people go so deep into debt when they get married that they can't pay off the debt. They're literally getting divorced and paying off their marriage debt after the divorce, which is absolutely crazy. That's appalling to me. And so I think that there are some little financial myths about getting married that you probably want to sort of make these optional anyway, right? Like this idea that you got to spend a ton of money on a wedding. I don't think that's required. I think you can have a great wedding without spending a lot of money. In fact, that could be like a tastemaker sort of thing. You can say, yeah, no, because we want to be original and creative. We're not going to do the big wedding. We're going to do X, Y, Z. My best friend, he got married twice. One time he got married with a big expensive wedding. That wedding lasted 9 months, but then he got married again to a woman he really loved 10 years later. They got married with a small group of about 10 people at at a mountain that was on the lowest point on the entire earth. It was some mountain in South America that they said was the lowest point at the equator. I don't know. He said something like that, but it's something really cool, right? Something cool and classic that didn't cost them a lot of money. Maybe the flight, of course, but outside of that, there was no expensive ceremony. And also, let me tell you this: De Beers, companies like De Beers that makes diamonds, they play with your head all the time. Give me a yes if you've ever heard the slogan "Diamonds are forever." How many of you have heard in the ads that say "Diamonds are forever, forever, forever"? Diamonds are forever. And give me a yes if you've ever heard people believe that that the quality of the diamond that you buy your partner is an indication of how much you love that person. Give me a yes if you've seen that. How many of you give me a yes if you've also heard that when you buy the diamond, you should spend 2 months' salary? Has anybody heard that? Give me a yes. Give me a yes if you've heard any of those three things: that diamonds are forever, that diamonds are a girl's best friend, that if you love her, you'll buy her a diamond, show your love with a diamond, and or what, 2 months' salary on a diamond. Let me be the first one to say that that's all bullshit. That's all complete, total bullshit. That's all made up. Those are all marketing campaigns. They create these marketing campaigns because they know that people are gullible. They know that people are trying to fit in, especially younger people. They're trying to fit in. They don't know who they are exactly. They don't know where they belong in this society. They don't want their friends looking down on them. So they just kind of do what everybody else does. So what marketers understand, and remember, my wife is a therapist. We talk all the time about the impact of the subconscious mind, which is the most powerful part of your brain, by the way. And so because people don't know who they are, marketers are like, oh, well, they don't know exactly where they stand. They don't know exactly what to do. So we're just going to tell them that everybody's doing it, and that'll make them do it. That's called social proof. So all that's bullshit. And there's no rule. They made a whole marketing campaign that diamonds are forever, and they won awards for the campaign. They said, man, this is some big pimping. The marketing industry was like, whoa, you made billions of dollars convincing people that they have to buy diamonds if they love each other. If you go back 100 years, I want you to go do the history on this. You go back 100 years and try to find examples where men felt like they had to buy expensive diamonds to prove that they loved a woman. Go back 100. That was not the case 100 years ago. This was a a manufactured fashion trend. They literally shifted the taste because they were like, we got to get people to buy these diamonds. In fact, to go deeper than that, De Beers even artificially restricts the supply of diamonds just to keep the price up, just to keep you paying big money on diamonds. So just be really careful about stuff like that. You don't have to do those things if you love somebody. And if somebody who demands you do all those things, that might not be the person for you, right? Number two is that in the article they said everyone tells us marriage is bad. Popular media has a lot to answer for here. Think about it. All we hear in the news is about which famous celebrity is getting divorced for the fourth time. The number of advertisements for family and divorce lawyers is crazy. And every time you watch a male stand-up comedian, all you hear are jokes about divorce and how terrible marriage is. How many jokes have heard over the years about terrible mother-in-laws, about how love how love dies like a goldfish on the carpet when you tie the knot? It certainly doesn't promote the idea that marriage is an enjoyable life experience. What about gossip magazines? Look on the fronts and you'll see stories like my husband ruined my life and ran off with my mother, and woman stabs husband to death after mistakenly thinking he was cheating. Between that and all the depression, the marriage and divorce statistics, it's little wonder that men think twice about sticking a ring on your finger. That's real stuff. That's real stuff. Media impacts the way we think. That when I wrote my book Financial Lovemaking, I remember hearing just a lot of really crazy stories about marriage and really thinking carefully about love and money. I wrote the book because I was intrigued by how money affects our attraction to each other, how money can affect even a woman's degree of sexuality. Like I saw women that said, I could not sleep with my husband anymore because he lost his job and he wasn't bringing home the bacon. So I felt like I didn't really have a real man at that time, which is terrifying for a man, right? It's really like, oh my God, but this is real stuff. This stuff happens. I noticed that when I started making more money, I was surprised at how I suddenly became the most handsome man in the room when I was rich and famous, right? But when I was like a little struggling grad student, I was just a regular guy. So that taught me that men and women kind of view each other differently, and that different things kind of affect how we decide who we want to be with. And so ultimately, I don't think that marriage gets a really good rap in the media. But it's not as if these stories aren't true. My first, I remember my mentor. I remember when I was 20 years old, I saw my mentor go through an ugly divorce. And every day he would just tell me how terrible it was, how mad he was, how upset he was, how much money it cost. And that really affected my thinking as well. So what it really said to me was be really careful and know what you're getting into. And also one thing that you're picking up on here should be that typically when men have more money, they're more what they call marriage eligible. When men are doing better financially, they just feel more comfortable taking on bigger commitments. And that's no different from like if you're running a business. When my business is doing well, I feel comfortable hiring people and making long-term commitments to people because I'm doing well. I can bring in more people in. Yeah, I got a job for you. I got a job for you too. But when the business is struggling, let me know you understand that you follow me here. When the business is struggling, I don't want to do that. I don't want to commit to nothing. It's like, no, I gotta offload some of this stuff. This is too much, right? So basically I think men feel the same way. And no matter how much you tell a man that his money doesn't matter, it does matter. It's like telling a woman that it doesn't matter if she fixes her hair. Has anybody ever tried to get a woman like on a Zoom or to come outside with you when her hair ain't ready and her makeup ain't on? Some women cannot move. They cannot function. They're like, no, I will not go outside without my hair. I don't care what you say. I must do my hair, right? So effectively, men feel the same way. I think financially, men get to a point where maybe they feel like, look, I'm just not ready financially for that kind of commitment of family and another person. So maybe one way to help him might be to if you got a little bit of your own. And some men will see that as like, okay, we can do this together. We're gonna figure this out together. Some men still can't do that. Some men just aren't comfortable with that. And I'm not knocking that one way or the other. I'm just giving you the facts. And also, what's happened in the Black community is that because economic opportunities have disappeared or declined significantly, marriage rates have declined. Also, because incarceration rates have gone up significantly, marriage rates have declined. So, in fact, there's a direct connection. Pay attention now, a direct connection between the percentage of Black men who are jobless and in prison and the percentage of Black men who get married. Do you understand what I'm saying here? So this is all heavily connected. If suddenly Black men's income went up, then the marriage rates would probably go up too. All right. So number 3, that said divorce is expensive. No man gets married without a plan of getting divorced, but we know that it can happen. Is divorce cheap? No. Is divorce pleasant? No. Most of us know someone who's gone through a divorce, and we know about the anger, resentment, the legal fees, the children that are dragged into it, the loss of friends. Divorce isn't just expensive in financial terms, it's expensive in emotional terms. And no man wants to think of his children or family being dragged into a long drawn out affair full of frustration and nastiness. Men with children are even more likely to be afraid of marriage because, as statistics show, divorce almost certainly means a big loss of contact. No man wants to risk only seeing his family every other weekend. That's deep right there. That's really deep. That's really, really deep. One thing I'll say is I don't think that we appreciate the amount of trauma that fathers go through when they lose the ability to see their children on a regular basis. Like I know men, and I'm one of them. I mean, I think the idea of having a child with somebody and then suddenly having your access to that child heavily restricted is just mortifying. Like, think about it. I mean, a lot of y'all are mothers in here. Imagine losing one of your kids or only being able to see your child, once every 2 weeks or whatever. It's devastating, right? And I don't think that we talk about how men feel enough when things like that happen. And the best thing I would say in general is that I believe that staying married is really a cultural value. It's a cultural decision, a cultural norm. My brother and I got married not because we grew up thinking marriage was like this wonderful, amazing fairy tale. We got married because our father got married, and we try our best to stay married because our father stayed married, right? Our father's been married to my mother for 50 years. That makes a difference. If my father had never married my mother, or if my father and mother had gotten divorced, my views on marriage would probably be different from what they are right now. So everybody's biased. And so to me, if you are thinking about marrying a person, I would pay very close attention to what their example was. Did they grow up seeing somebody who was married? Because then they would kind of understand what it really takes. Like if somebody like Marvin Harrison Jr. plays for the Ohio State Buckeyes. He's the best wide receiver in the country, if I'm not mistaken. And the reason I believe Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to get to the NFL is because his daddy, Marvin Harrison Sr., has already been to the NFL. His father has already explained to him what it takes to play at that level. You understand? So effectively, marriage is like going to the NFL of relationships. It's hard. It's tough. You got to be better. You got to be prepared. You got to be committed. And a lot of people don't get that. So I think that when they're signing up for marriage, some people are signing up for the fantasy and the fairy tale. They're thinking more about what their friends are going to think. They're thinking more about the beauty of the wedding, how great that's going to be, what kind of dance they're going to do. When the bride and groom come out, they're not thinking about the day to day commitment that's required, the long period of time that it takes to get married. It's really, really, it's not easy, right? So I would try to either connect with somebody that's already done it. It's like if you're going to run a marathon, you don't try to run a marathon with a sprinter. If you run a marathon with a sprinter, they're going to run really fast for about 100 meters, then they're going to get tired. A marathoner is going to take their time, so they're going to seem like they're slow, right? Just like those so-called boring men, those boring men that y'all ladies overlook when you're younger, like those boring men who seem like they're the slow runners. Those are the long distance runners. Those are the ones who are prepared to really stick it out with you. That fast stuff, it's almost like fast money. Fast money is usually dead money. Fast relationships are dead relationships. So those slow, steady relationships, in many cases, tend to be the ones that last. And so, effectively, what can tend to occur is that when you don't get that flash, it's not as exciting. It's not as sexy, and it's not as interesting, right? Now, but the thing about it is that staying power of marriage, the benefits of it, I've noticed, tend to accrue after the age of 40 for sure. Right. Even before 40, it can happen. But like that idea of having a consistent, stable life at home, it helps you minimize the number of emotional ups and downs that you have to deal with as a single person. Think about this. Give me a yes or no. Have you ever paid attention to single people when they're talking online? A lot of single people, especially women, don't sound super happy about being single. If I was to ask women over 40 that are single, what's it like to be single? Most of my friends don't say good things. I enjoy being single most of the time, but I was alone a lot. I had the loneliness, but I don't get lonely, right? I'm an introvert, so I can sit here and by myself and not talk to another human being for a very long time. But for some people, that loneliness wears on them. So effectively, that lonely. So the benefits of being single, I think, end up being balanced against the challenges of knowing that really nobody's really got your back, that there's nobody out there that is responsible, that is required to pick you up if you go to if you suddenly need a surgery and need somebody to pick you up from the hospital. There's nobody there, and that becomes a challenge for some people, and that's why some people may choose to get married. So if you're a single person ever wondering like, well, why would people get married? You have all these rules. There's certain things you can't do. Part of it is because it's nice to know you got somebody that's assigned to you. It's like remember when you were a little kid in elementary school and you would go on a field trip and they'd have the buddy system and you had to hold hands with another kid to make sure nobody got kidnapped or nobody got lost, right? It's kind of a buddy system for life, right? And sometimes it's hard to go through life, especially when you're older and vulnerable, without any buddies. Okay, so I'm going to call for a second. If y'all can hit the thumbs up button while I do that, I'd appreciate that. Hold on. Okay, I got my cough out. I'm sorry about that. I didn't want y'all to have to hear that. But by the way, my name's Dr. Boyce Watkins. You're watching drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. If you'd like to get a list of AI stocks that I like, as well as our $5 a day investing plan that can literally turn $5 a day into 100K in less than a couple of decades. It's a long-term plan, but it works. Feel free to text the word stock to 31996. Text stock to 31996. I'll also send you a very popular training I did called How to Make Money Without Working. That's totally free. All that's free. And also, if you'd like to get a copy of my book, Financial Lovemaking, where I talk about the link between love and money, just go to drboycebooks.com. And my kids will ship it to you. We also have financial flashcards for children, financial workbooks for your kids, just a lot of tools in the Black Business School that I think you're going to like. All right, so we got two more. We're talking about 5 reasons why a lot of men aren't getting married. The last two are this. Number 4, they said, we're afraid of losing the spark. I can't tell you how many people I've heard say things like, the spark just died after we got married. There's so much scaremongering out there about marriage that is crazy. You only have to turn on the television or open the newspaper to read articles about saving your marriage or fixing your dying relationship. Nobody goes into a marriage expecting it to go wrong, but society has almost programmed us to assume there's a good chance it will go wrong. There isn't something that just affects men either. I know women who are starting to worry about the prospect of marriage, not because they don't want the big Disney wedding they've always dreamed of, but because they're also terrified by all the horror stories out there. So, So the thing about marriage, and I think this is something that is difficult, is that marriage gives you different benefits than you get from kind of dating and being kind of a swinger type, or meeting a new person every 6 to 9 months. Years ago, I read a couple books that really transformed me. One book was called What Women Want Men to Know by Dr. Barbara DeAngelis, and it helped me understand the mind of women. And she literally had a chapter called 15 Minutes Inside the Mind of a Woman. And I read it and I was absolutely blown away. And I just learned at that moment that men and women are very different, and that I didn't understand nearly as much as I thought I did. So I tried to start studying and understanding women in order to achieve whatever goal that I had, whether it was to find the right woman, make a woman happy, be the right kind of man for the right woman, whatever it was. The second thing, there was another book. I don't remember what it's called. I think it was called something like Love Slaves. Maybe. I don't know for sure. But in this book, I remember learning about what happens to your brain when you fall in love. I was really fascinated in the early stage of my PhD program with how love would just make you feel super high and super good, and then super bad. And then it's like when you break up, you almost go through withdrawal like a drug addict. But then you get over it, and then you're in love with somebody else, and you forget, almost damn near forgotten about the other person, or you kind of remember, but you're not connected to them anymore. And I was like, what is this? What is going on here? And what I found out about is that God, love, and Mother Nature are just some powerful forces that literally the whole system, the universe rigged the whole system to make you attracted to other people. It wired you in to the idea of reproduction so deeply that you don't even know what's there. Like the way you feel when you see that pretty girl, or the way you see that handsome man, the way you feel when somebody touches you, even the orgasm has it's like a nuclear explosion inside your body and inside your brain that is designed to bond you to other people, especially for women. Men, we don't bond as much because we have testosterone. They said the more testosterone men have, the less the bonding mechanism tends to work. Again, I'm an armchair analyst here, so don't quote me on this, right? So I'm not pretending to be anybody's scientist, but this is what I read, that men have, because of our testosterone, it takes a little more work for us to bond to people because the oxytocin receptors don't work as well. Oxytocin is the bonding chemical that's inside your brain, inside your body. And whereas women, I think women got to be really careful. I think women are wired to bond with other people much more quickly and in a much more sustainable way. That's why women tend to be, on average, not all the time, but they tend to be a little more loyal in the sense of like, that's my guy, that's the man I want, that's it, and also oxytocin kicks in when you have a baby. That's why mother and child are so connected. It's not because women are just so much more disciplined than men. It's because you're wired to be connected to that child that was inside your body, because the whole 9 months you were producing oxytocin that was connecting you to this person. It's designed to protect the child and to keep the child alive. And then also when you get with that man and the sex is good and you have those orgasms, what's happening is you're producing tons of oxytocin. Oxytocin doesn't just bond you with the other person. It also makes you trust the other person. So you ever seen like some lady that's like madly in love with a guy who ain't shit? You ever, give me a yes if you've ever seen this, where you're like, why, she'll wash his dirty drawers. Don't she see what everybody else sees? And no, she doesn't see what everybody else sees. She's literally like a drug addict for that first 6 months. And that's why my conclusion is that if you really want to protect your heart, you got to be really careful about who you allow to touch you, who you allow to be near you. Because if you're not, if you get into this whole casual sex thing, especially for women, I don't think it works well for women. I think for men, we got to be careful for a lot of reasons too. False accusations, STDs, baby mama drama. Like baby mama drama and having kids with multiple women is the easiest way for a man to go broke. And then also you have to answer for all these choices later on. Your 25-year-old son doesn't speak to you because you were sloppy with your decisions back when you were his age. Little things like that. Whereas I think for women, it comes down to the fact that you might just be madly and infinitely in love and deeply attracted to a guy who is a complete asshole, who is no good for you, who's doing terrible things to you, but you keep coming back like Cassie and Diddy because you can't get away from that man. Just psychologically, you're just connected. Like Oprah said, I realized that I wasn't addicted to the drugs. I was addicted to the man. Right. So oxytocin's deep. I encourage you to read up on it a little bit, and it'll help you maybe understand your process a little bit better. But that spark that they talk about, the spark pretty much is heavy, super heavy in the first 6 to 9 months of the relationship. It starts to wear off after a while. If you have that friend who has one relationship after another, just notice the pattern. First, they're madly in love and the person's great. They can do no wrong. And then slowly but surely, they start to level off after about the 6 to 9 month mark. By the time that point in the year circles around, they've moved on to someone new because they're just recharging the battery. They're just getting a new spark. It's like chewing a piece of gum until the sugar runs out. Then you spit out that piece and you just put another piece in there because the new piece is always going to taste better than the old piece. If you understand what I'm saying, right? Like the new stuff is always better than that old dried up piece of gum that was in your mouth before will never taste as good as the nice juicy fruit that you just put in your mouth that's got all the sugar in it. And so that sugar high ends up being replaced by the longer term bonding and connection that comes with a more mature relationship. And that's what allows you to have that emotional stability, though, because that's the thing. The explosions are very chaotic. Like a lot of these short-term relationships I've noticed tend to be just a lot of drama, a lot of, like happy, you go from fighting to fucking and tears to happiness to back and forth, up and down, lonely to fulfilled and all that. And that's what makes the single life exciting, but it also makes it very devastating for people, like, right? And then also I think your trauma as a Black person, I think that because our trauma rates are so high, that plays a role in our addiction to the volatility, addiction to the instability, right? So ultimately for some people, they get into stuff that's solid and serious, and they can't take it. It's like, no, I need drama. Just like an adrenaline junkie needs adrenaline. Some of us just need drama. We like the drama, especially when you're young. But I think that there's a point in life, and I think honestly, if you're looking for somebody in a long-term situation, find somebody who kind of doesn't need the drama to be happy, right? Like I think you get to the point where you realize the drama is draining. The drama is it just wears you down emotionally. It's debilitating sometimes, and it's exhausting. You can't get nothing done, and then you aim for something a little more stable, but then you have to find somebody who wants that same stability. And that's even something that leads to our last point, where they talk about, actually it wasn't the last one, it was number 3, where they said divorce is expensive. And the thing about divorce that's interesting to me is I found that over time, and I figured this out when I was writing my book, Financial Lovemaking, that it's not just about sort of figuring out how somebody is when you work together, but I like to find out, how do you fight? Do you fight fair? How do you act when you're mad? How do you act when you hate somebody? Right? Because that tells you a lot about what it's going to be like in case the relationship doesn't work out. Right? So it's just like doing business. If you do business with somebody who sues every single person they get mad at, that's not a good person to do business with, because that means they're going to find some reason to sue you. Or if they want to fight and scream and holler and go to the internet and just act a fool, a lot of really good business people won't do business with somebody who's chaotic like that, because they know that if something goes wrong, they're going to throw a temper tantrum. Whereas there are some people who can handle disputes in a more appropriate way. They'll either mend the relationship or they'll walk away without they don't want the drama. So a drama-free lifestyle, honestly, I found, is not just good for the business of family. It's also good for the business of making money. People that make money, corporations, for example, people that run major corporations, they do not like drama. Let me give you a real life example to help you kind of understand this. I was at an event one time where there were some really important people there. There was one guy who was a senior executive at Nike, another guy who was who literally ran a corporation that made $3 billion the previous year. There was another person who was like a former mayor or something, and another person who was like really big in the music industry, who in an executive capacity. And I knew these guys, and we were all talking. And then this one guy comes up, and he was like a famous rapper, right? That's how he was in our circle because he was famous or whatever. But this guy was an asshole. He was loud. He was obnoxious. He was cussing. It was like nigga this, nigga that every other sentence. And we're all sitting here like, and I guess he thought because we're all black that we talk like that too, or we would understand it. But we were just looking at him like this guy's a clown. Like who is this clown? And this guy, but he was famous. We didn't say who he was. We knew who he was, but we were like, why? What are you doing? Like this is not what we want to participate in. So what happened was one of the executives went to the person who ran the event and said, please take him away. Get him out of here. Like, I don't want him around. Like, we don't want this type of drama. We don't like people like that. And even we don't care how famous he is. We just don't like grown men who act like children. And I was 100% in favor of it. I said, this guy's a distraction. He's crazy. He's loud. Maybe he's been smoking and drinking, but nobody wants to deal with that. So in general, I think that overall, people that are more mature, this is my point here. People that tend to be more mature, who are more accomplished, who are more solid, who are more stable, they like to be around stable people. They like to be in stable situations. And if you're talking about raising children, children prosper much more carefully, much more thoroughly in stable environments. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like when you're raising a child, it's like growing a flower. You can't grow a flower in the middle of a tornado and a thunderstorm. You cannot grow a flower in the middle of a tornado and a thunderstorm. So when you have children involved, you have to find some way to have some stability. I know y'all are arguing and I know y'all have your issues or whatever, but you can't be 40 arguing with your partner as if y'all both a couple crazy 20-year-olds, because you got your little 10-year-old son sitting there watching all this. And he's already dealing with all the difficulties of transitioning to middle school and figuring out who he is. And he's walking in with a bunch of adults acting like kids. So this is one of the things I've always said, that any adult who wants to be a solid parent, who wants to run a solid family, should, work on your shit before you start raising kids. A lot of times the reason kids get screwed up is because their parents never worked on this shit. Their parents never fixed whatever was broken in them from childhood. They carried it into adulthood. Now you're passing it down to your kids, and now your kids are as screwed up as you are. Let's not do that to our kids. Actually, my wife happens to be a therapist. She has a whole series called The Drama-Free Family and Drama-Free Relationships. If you want to go take a look at what she does, she actually sees clients on an individual and collective basis. You can go to coachingwithdralicia.com. That's coachingwithdralicia.com. And also her books are actually, I put them on my website as well. It's drboycebooks.com. So if you go to drboycebooks.com, look up Alicia, take a look at some of her stuff. It's really good. It's all built around creating rules and boundaries and standards of how you deal with each other, so you minimize the drama. Now, now let me get to the last point. We're talking about 5 reasons why he won't get married. Now, Sir Charles says must have been Willie D. Now, I don't know what that means exactly. Willie D is one of my good friends. He was in my wedding. And so hopefully you didn't mean anything silly with that comment, because like I said, we bounce clowns out of here. So please don't say anything. If you're going to be a troll, be a quiet troll, because if you reveal yourself, then I'm going to have to ban you for life. And I don't want that. I don't want to get rid of every stupid person. Some of y'all need to listen, but I'm really here for the people that want to hear this. So please don't come in here with disruptive comments. That's not going to be appropriate in this platform. All right. So, but anyway, but shout out to Willie D. Willie D is one of my buddies. All right, so let me get in here. Number 5, we love you with or without a ring. Times are changing. We're in a world where same-sex marriages are on the up, and women have the kind of equality they deserve. If a man is in a committed long-term relationship with you, why should a ring have to prove that he loves you more than he does? If you're living together, if you have a family, and if you have financial commitments, you're bound in the eyes of the law anyway. A ring doesn't equal love to most men. What do y'all think? Yes or no? Men, do you agree that you don't need a ring to show that you love somebody? I agree. I don't need paper. I don't need rings, all that to show that I love you. But I understand that signing that paper does prove a level of commitment, because it means I can't just get mad at you and walk out the door and disappear that day and have everything be okay. And that's one of the biggest things I've noticed about marriage, is that one reason that marriage is beneficial, there's at least a few, but one benefit of marriage is that it makes it harder to break up. So I knew a lady who stayed married 50 years, and she said the main reason I never got divorced was partly because I love my husband, but the other part was every time I get mad and I'd say I'm divorcing him, I'm leaving. By the time it came time for me to go over to get a lawyer and pay all that money and do all the work, I wasn't mad anymore, and I would just say whatever. I'll just keep doing what I was doing. So really, that's one thing. Marriage creates in finance and economics, we call that a friction. market friction. And one of the friction is something that makes it harder for you to do something. It's like when they talk about building a wall at the border. The wall isn't going to stop anybody that really wants to get into the country. It just creates another barrier. It creates another friction. So things that create frictions or barriers for you to make the next move tend to influence your decision making just a little bit. So that's one thing about marriage is it is a good friction. Number two is it does help if somebody gets sick or whatever, or if somebody dies. Woo, buddy, I have seen some chaos when somebody died. Let me tell y'all a true story. Hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. And don't forget, this podcast is on Spotify and Apple. Look up my name on Spotify and Apple if you want to find it. Let me tell you a true story about one of the things that can happen if you don't get married. Okay, so there was this guy. He was about the same age as Kevin Samuels. See, we black men in our 50s, our biggest flaw sometimes is when we're in our 50s and we think we can live like we're in our 20s, and then if you ain't been going to the gym and taking care of yourself, sometimes health issues can pop up. So this brother was 52. He had a girlfriend. True story. He had a girlfriend that was about 29. He also had a daughter that was about 27. Now, the girlfriend did not like the daughter, the daughter didn't like the girlfriend, for obvious reasons, right? She's like, why are you dating a girl who's the same age as my sister, right? Y'all know how that goes. But they kept their relationship going, and this man was a solid guy. He made good money. That's how a lot of older guys attract younger women. The younger women may be looking for money. The old guys looking for youth, right? And so he took care of the girlfriend and his mother. They both lived in the same house with him. Well, one day he has a stroke, and so here's what happens. So he has this stroke. He goes into a coma. So while he's in this coma, none of the bills are getting paid because all the money is in his bank account. And now they know that if they know that if he was okay, if he was alive, he'd be paying all the bills like he always does. But you can't do that if he's in a coma. You can't take the money out. So you know what they did? They took his phone and they put it up on his face, broke in his phone, transferred money out of his account into their account so they could keep on paying the bills. Well, that's not legal. So what happened then is he eventually dies. And because he did not handle any legal business, he did not marry this woman. He did not put her in his will. He did not leave in anything in a trust for anybody. Everything went to his daughter. So what you've seen, ladies and gentlemen, in that example is a massive Game of Thrones like shift of power where suddenly the daughter owns everything. That's the same daughter who never liked your ass anyway. So the daughter immediately gets the girlfriend evicted. She then finds out that a bunch of her daddy's money was taken out of the account. So she calls the police, and the police go and they arrest the girlfriend and they arrest the grandma. I don't know what she had against the grandma, but she said, I want both of those women in jail right now. And then they went back and took all the money back. And she then owes all this restitution and she's going to jail. This is true story. So what I would say on his behalf, given that if he were alive, he probably wouldn't approve of any of this. But unfortunately, something happens with us mentally where, especially us men, we think we're never going to die. We think I got this. I can handle all this by myself. Some of y'all do this too. Like some of y'all like single moms and you're doing everything for everybody and it's all going through you. And you don't consider the fact that sometimes death arrives without making an appointment. And it's relentless. Death is ruthless. When death takes you, death does not care how many people are dependent on you. Death does not care how many appointments you have next week. Death does not care how much stuff you got going on. Death is like, okay, you out. Now you can't even pay the rent the next month because somebody needed you to transfer the money over from the account. And you never gave passwords. You never talked about an exit strategy, an exit plan. You never talked about that. So effectively, this is the kind of thing that can happen. So this is where marriage might have protected her rights a little bit more. So I'm not telling everybody to run off and get married. I'm just helping you understand why some people do. Do you understand? I'm helping you understand why some people do. I know when I went to the hospital and I went under, I almost died actually when I was they put me under anesthesia. My blood pressure shot through the roof. They had to pull me out because my blood pressure was so high. Anything could have happened. Well, my wife, I woke up to at least know that my wife, while I was under, was handling my business. Do you understand? So just keep that in mind. I'm not telling you what to do. I know that sometimes there's opposition on the internet in terms of people interpreting me as the guy who's telling all the black men they have to get married or marry a single mom. I never say anything. It's just like voting. I never tell black people who to vote for. I just want you to have all the information so you can make the best decision for you. And I don't want you to be so closed-minded that you only consider one option because you heard it from somebody on the internet. I want you to consider all the options because I think every situation is different. I got married, but I wouldn't have married just anybody. I married a certain type of person. If I wasn't with my wife, who knows? I might still be single. So ultimately, I don't think you should let anybody tell you how to do stuff, especially given also that your needs and your desires change as you age. When you're over 50, sex is not the number one driving force behind every decision you make. When you're 25 and you're horny, yeah, is pretty overwhelming. When you're 50, you're like, man, I've been there, done that. like you see somebody try to lure you in with shaking the ass or whatever. You're like, yeah, that's nice. That's really nice. But can you put some chicken on a plate with some green beans? And after that, can I have a nap? And can you help me with my business? Like really seriously, like you know, I just really think that we don't have enough conversations about what grown men actually want and why those men are typically better for things like marriage, or little things that might have bothered me when I was in my 20s. Like when if you dated a woman with a child and you're 27 and you're broke, it's really hard to like go to McDonald's or something because the bill's like $25. You're like, man, $25 is a lot of money. When you're over 50 and you've already like hit your peak earning years, you don't care about spending 25. You're like, whatever. Just don't stress me out. Okay, what, $100? Okay, here you go. Right. And, so it's just what stage of life you're at. And I think you got to sort of look at the stage of life that a person's in, as well as their background, to understand who you want to link up with and who you want to give your best to. Because I think a lot of mistakes that we do make, again, because love is so addictive. I told you about that, how the oxytocin and the phenylethylamine and the dopamine works on your brain. Love is so addictive that it causes us sometimes to put our best into people who don't deserve our best. Right? The people who get your best sometimes are the people who only deserve your worst. And then you give your worst to someone who's earned your best. And the next thing you know, you end up in a really challenging situation. All right. So anyway, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe if you have not done this yet. Also, I do have another new book. It's called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. You can find it at drboycebooks.com. And also, if you'd like to get profit alerts or a list of AI stocks that I've invested in and our $5 a day investing plan, the Black Business School, just text the word stock to 31996. That's stock to 31996. I want everybody, I'm not telling everybody in here to get married, but I want you to be in a good enough financial situation that you can get married and you can raise them damn kids and you don't have to have money as a barrier to you doing what you want to do, right? I want you to be able to make your choices without money being the constraint or the friction that keeps you from doing that, right? So my PhD's in finance. I think I can help you. Just text the word stock to 31996. We have lots of free stuff in the Black Business School. We've helped millions of people. We're independently funded, 100% Black owned, and we are getting it done. We're better than every HBCU or white owned university on the planet when it comes to Black wealth. That's all we focus on. That's what we do, is we focus on Black people. We study Black people. We study Black culture. We study hip hop. We study everything to understand how it's impacting our economic condition. And our experts are the best on the freaking planet. So feel free to just text the word stock to 31996 and we will show you. I will transform your life. I guarantee it. All right. So let me finish the last point. We're talking about 5 reasons why men won't get married. Oh, well, number 5 was we love you with or without the ring. So basically what they're saying is that a lot of men feel that, hey, look, if you're together and I love you, why do I need a piece of paper to show that? Why do I need to buy a ring to prove that? I think that's a valid argument to a point. But again, I just explained some of the legalities and the practicalities of why you might still need that commitment in order for things to truly be solid. Because here's the other thing too. If somebody does go to the hospital, or if you're in court, in the court documents, they only recognize wife and husband. They don't recognize ride or die. They don't recognize, baby daddy. They don't recognize, long-term boyfriend. They don't recognize, the girl, his main girl. They don't recognize the girl that was holding it down. Or baby mama. They don't recognize none of that stuff. They recognize husband and they recognize wife, right? So to some extent, really, you can make an argument that marriage really is a business. It's going into business with somebody. That's what it is. You're literally aligning a legal documentation to say we are an entity. We are like an LLC, right? Except it's an MRS or whatever, right? But we are an entity, and this entity represents a certain type of legal structure that gives us certain rights and privileges that exist in our society. Also, if you're able to make it work, it can create prosperity and possibility, but it's a lot like any other type of LLC. If I start a business with you and you're a bad business partner, then I shouldn't start that business with you, right? So everybody shouldn't be married, and you shouldn't be marrying everybody, right? You only want to go into business with a business partner who values the business. You only want to go into business with a business partner who knows how to run the business. You only want to go into business with a business partner who will work hard on maintaining and improving the business. Let me know if you understand what I'm saying. Give me a yes if you follow, right? So that means that there has to be a couple of conditions that I'm going to recommend here. This is Dr. Boyce and Uncle Boyce talking at the same time here. Those are my twin personas, right? Uncle Boyce is the 52-year-old man who's lived life. The Dr. Boyce is the guy with the PhD and several degrees in finance. Okay, so Uncle Boyce and Dr. Boyce would say this: if you're picking somebody to go into the business of family and marriage with, which is the most important business that you'll ever start in your life, it's the greatest opportunity you've ever had. I would pick somebody that I would analyze their track record in relationships. I think a person who's had a series of very short relationships might have a hard time transitioning to something that's long term. I would also look at their number one mentors. If you are a man, did your daddy stay married to your mama for a long time? Well, maybe that's kind of rare. At the very least, what man do you look up to, and what did he do, right? And if those things are not in alignment, that doesn't mean that he's disqualified. It just means you have to find out, like, well, what did you do to address this? Like, how do we overcome this issue, right? And do I see this in his behavior or in her actions, right? So, in a way, you can almost think of it like this: like when I hire people, I maybe I prefer people that have certain types of academic degrees, right? So if I'm hiring somebody, and the requirement is you need to have a bachelor's degree, and somebody comes along and says, "Well, I don't have a bachelor's degree," well, then my next question may not be like my next statement may not be, "Oh, well, you're not qualified." My statement may be, "Well, what did you do instead of getting a bachelor's degree?" Do you understand? Do you follow what I'm saying? Right? So I might say, "Well, okay, I get it. Okay, so you took a lot of certification courses and you have 10 years of experience. Well, that's better than a bachelor's degree." You understand? So that's one thing. I would look at that past, look at that track record to decide if that's a good person to go into business with. And then number two, I would try to get some assessment of how much they're willing to invest in the business. See, if you start a business with somebody, an LLC, it sucks if you start a business and you're doing all the work and they ain't doing none of the work. Right. So if you get an assessment of somebody who's like, no, not only am I going to start this family with you, but I'm going to work on the family. That means I'm going to put the time in. I'm going to put time into also improving the family. I'm going to study ways to run the business better, to be a better dad, to be a better mother, to be a better wife, to be a better husband. I'm willing to negotiate and compromise with you for the betterment of the business. Right. This is one of the reasons why, when they say a family that prays together stays together. I know y'all make fun of people that go to church, and I'm not here to say you should or should not go to church. I don't go to church, but one of the benefits of that idea that God is the guide of the marriage is because marriage generally, for the most part, there's a reason why marriage takes place in a church. Like there's a reason why you get married in a church and not a strip club, right? There's a reason why you get married in a church and not a library or or a restaurant, right? You get married in a church because church is a religious concept ultimately, right? So effectively, when God is kind of the guide, what that does is that gives you rules to go by. And people, and so if you do marry somebody that is truly committed to the rules, y'all know what it is. We got a lot of fake Christians out here. We got a lot of a lot of pimps in the pulpit. I know a pastor who got like 6 babies mamas who sleeps with everybody in the church, right? So we know people break the rules, but if you're talking about somebody that really follows the rules, well, that could be a good partner in a marriage because it's like you're both playing basketball and you understand the rules of basketball, or you both agree on what game you're playing. Because you could decide to play football, but then you both have to make sure you're playing the same sport, right? But if I'm playing basketball and you're playing football, that's not going to work very well because every time I go up for a slam dunk, you're going to tackle me. And that's just not going to work, right? So effectively, you got to make sure, I think, by having the same cultural norms or some sort of value system that you both believe in that will define the constraints of the relationship can go a really long way. It may just be that you both agree to talk to a therapist and make the rules of the relationship. So the biggest question to ask in a marriage I found is, what are the rules of this relationship? And are we going to both abide by those rules? I think, and really, honestly, that's really it. Those are probably two of the major things. I don't want to over talk this, but this is just me kind of sharing what I perceive in hopes that this helps you. If it does not help you, then it is okay to ignore me. But I'm hopeful that that you understand this important fact that if you are thoughtful about your next move, if you're strategic, and if you're making sure that you're aligning yourself with the right people and making the right choices and showing up as the best version of yourself that you can be, I think all these institutions can work. I think marriage can be either wonderful or terrible, depending on how you do it, right? It can be wonderful or terrible depending on how you do it. Just like starting a business. That business can make you a billionaire or it can destroy your life, right? So the question a lot of times is, who are you going into business with, right? And how are you running this business, right? That's literally what it comes down to. So never ever let anybody convince you that marriage is always good or that it's always bad. Neither one is true. Both are always true. It depends on the situation, depends on the people, depends on the rules. Got it? I hope that makes sense. I hope that helps you. And thank you. Chairman DePore says over talking is good. Good. Well, I'm glad over talking is good because I tend to over talk. It's because I have a lot of thoughts in my head. And I'm like, okay, I got to get it out. I got to explain. But sometimes it comes off as a little bit over talking, which doesn't work so well on the internet. I know this. I know YouTube and stuff doesn't like yapping, but I yap a lot. So I got to give you a yap warning to just say, look, if I'm going to talk about something, I'm going to talk about it. I can't just sort of talk a little bit. I want to really give you the whole to do because these decisions are very important and I don't think people take them seriously enough. And if you don't believe me, look at all the disasters you see around you. Look at all the chaos you see. Go look at the shade room and look at how messy some of these relationships get and how ridiculous it gets. And here's the thing that hurts me the most. It hurts my heart is that children are the ones that suffer. The children are the ones that suffer, and I think whenever I get tempted to act a fool in a relationship, the thing that slows me down is I think about the children. Like, what example am I setting? How are they going to be affected by my behavior? They're looking up to me. So that makes me stand up a little bit different and take my role a little bit more seriously because other people are affected by the choices we make. So we cannot go into scenarios with a selfish mindset. So that's what I implore you to consider. I hope that this helps somebody out here. And thank you guys for hearing me out. All right. So anyway, do me a favor, please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. Also, this podcast is on Spotify. So if you look up my name on Spotify, you can find my two podcasts there. One's called the Dr. Boyce Breakdown. The other one's called How to Make Money Without Working. And in addition to that, we have a great wealth building program for children, getting children prepared economically for the future. That really helps them to avoid a lot of the economic pain that a lot of us go through when we get to a certain age. I think that the big power play for intelligent Black people is that I want all of us to really, really kick everybody's butt when it comes to getting our kids ready to be economic soldiers. I'm not talking about just job chasers and all this other stuff and going to college. That's great too. But I want them to really know real estate. I want them to know stock market investing. I want them to know entrepreneurship. So we created a program called Black Millionaires of Tomorrow. It's blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. You can feel free to go take a look at that. Thousands of kids have gone through it. Their financial literacy level. In fact, the guarantee we have in the Black Business School is that if your child's financial literacy level does not exceed the average college educated adult, we will give you a full refund on anything that you spend in that program. That's how good it is. That's how confident we are. And I know what I'm doing. This is what I do. This is my superpower. So I want to just share that with as many people as I can. All right. So anyway, guys, have a wonderful day. blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. That's the URL. Also, to get the profit alerts, just text the word stock to 31996. I'm out of here, guys. Have a great day. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you soon. Peace.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones who late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the pocket, let's talk about negligence.